everybody doing out there tonight? Hopefully you're doing well. Welcome back to another Wires Crappie Live. We're in the process of getting ready because we're not completely ready for the live yet. And the reason is because my kid decided to bounce his head off of the granite countertop. He decided to bounce his head off of it. So we're running a little behind because I had a screaming Mimi upstairs. And he's good now. No long-lasting damage that I know of. But, hey, as long as he's good, we're good, right? So, that was my night. Hope your night has been well. Hope you're ready to talk some crappie fishing. Fishing in general. We're going to talk a little bit of general fishing and crappie fishing tonight. So we're going to kind of a twofold deal, if you will. We're going to talk about a couple of different topics that are hot on the list right now, right? So you got some hot topics out there, and you know, some things that I really want to hear from you guys on, and kind of get your feelings and see. And I got some gray coming in. I'm gonna have to get rid of that. I don't like looking at myself on the phone and seeing gray hairs. I'm getting old, man. But a couple different things we're going to talk about tonight, like I said, and hopefully I'm coming in well. Am I coming in well on my audio? Make sure my audio is coming in well. I took my Bluetooth out. My Bluetooth does not come through well on audio, so I always want to make sure you guys can hear me. Let's see what we got going here. Let's get you guys a little more stable so you're not rocking and bouncing and getting seasick while I'm talking to you. All right. As always, when you get on tonight, drop me a hello. Let me know where you're from. I always like to be able to say hey to you guys and just kind of see where we're reaching out to, like I always tell you. So it's nice to know where we're reaching out to. It's nice to know, how many people are on and where you're from. And I like to be able to say hi. So make sure you drop me a hello when you get on. And let's say some hellos real quick while we're waiting on everybody to join in. Hey, Jimmy Pratt. What's up, Jimmy? Jimmy in the house. So, Jimmy, I think, well, here's how my conversations with Jimmy lately have went. So it's ring, ring, ring. Hello. I'm on the lake again. Ha, 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 ha. And I'm like, I'm at work. Thanks for calling. As Jimmy has been a fishing fool lately. He's been out on the lake putting the time in. Hey, he's going to be tough. He's going to be tough come tournament day. Let me tell you, Jimmy is putting in the time. He's taking off work going fishing all the time is what he's doing. Nathan from Wabash, Indiana, what's up? What's going on, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Carrie Crane, hi Matt, Carrie, and Daryl from Knoxville. Seen you on Teleco not long ago. Ready to go back. Oh, that's awesome, man. Or ma'am, and ma'am. Glad y'all are here. If you saw me on Teleco, you should come over and say hello. Guys, when you guys see me, come say hello. You're not going to bother me, I promise. If you see me on the lake, come over, say hello. I'd love to shake your hand and probably have some decals in my boat too. So if you see me on the lake, come by. I'll swing you a couple packs of bowhead baits and a decal and just chit chat a little bit. Because I always like to chit chat with you guys when I'm on the lake. So Carrie, if you guys see me in, come over and say hey. Please, please. Jonathan Brown. Hey, Matt from Lenore City. What's going on? Stuart Ferris. Hello, Matt from Southern Illinois. What's going on? Hunter. Sound not good. All right. Hang on. Why it does this every time I get on the live. Oh, you did come over and talk to me. Okay. Did I have a guide trip that day? Did I have 2 kids in the boat with me? Was that you guys that I saw when I had the 2 young boys in the front of the boat? That was a little bit of a hectic day. I'm sorry. I had 2 15-year-olds that I took on a guide trip. And that was a little bit of a hectic day. So if that's the day that you guys saw me, I was probably oblivious to anything at that point because I was trying to keep up with them. So if that's the day you saw me, I apologize. But if you see me another day, come over and say hey. Let's see. What's up, old school? Hope everyone is doing great. What's up, Joel? Hello, Matt from Carrollton, Georgia. What's going on, Ronnie? Paul Gwynn, hello from Chattanooga. Joe, is the audio better? Hopefully my audio's better. Somebody let me know. You had the 2 kids, yes. Yeah, yeah. So if that was the day, please, please, please forgive me that I didn't come over and say hi and yes. Okay, great. Yeah, please forgive me, Carrie. Hopefully you guys caught some fish that day though. After you guys saw us, I hope. Jeff from West Virginia, what's going on? Cooler weather giving me the fishing fever down here in Cochran, Georgia. Time to let those light wire hooks put those light wire hooks to the test. Yep. Cooler weather's coming. It's going to be great. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight because cooler weather, the beginning of cooler weather, like I was talking to Joel tonight, that beginning of that cooler weather can sometimes be a little bit cantankerous as far as, catching fish and where to find fish and locate fish. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. We're going to call it our turnover edition, right? We're going to talk about turnover a little bit, about, what happens to the lake when it turns over. And we kind of touched on it a little bit last week when we talked kind of the fall deal. But, we're going to talk a little more in depth of what to do and where to go and kind of how those fish react to that turnover. So we're going to get a little involved in that here in just a little bit. Yes, a lot better. Good evening, Matt. I hope you and your family are doing well, my friend. Thank you, Ronald. I appreciate it. Can you spend a little bit of time to explain crappie during the fall turnover? Okay. Well, there you go, Ronald. Yes, we're going to talk about fall turnover a little bit. I struggle during this time of year. So, yes, we are going to talk about that a little bit. I also want to talk about, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the things that are going on with live scope and some of the bass trails that are banning live scope, and some of them are limiting the live scope, and some of them are saying, now they're limiting the amount of screens that you can have on your boat. They're limiting the amount of transducers you can have on your boat. I mean, they're going pretty in depth with some of the, and now they're saying you can only have one trolling motor on your boat, right? So there is one, I think it's Bassmasters, and there's one other that are saying you can't have more than one trolling motor on your boat now. I think they're trying to stop people from using the brakes, the crappie brakes, and the brakes that are on your power poles. So they're going. They're going. Oh, Scott, thank you, buddy. He said I went. Love the hat. Went to order one, and website is down. I don't know why the website's down. That's not good. Hopefully they get that back up. Let me get my banner up here. Why is my banner not? Hey, there it is. There's discount codes for you guys. If you're interested in any of the fishing specialties products, stowaway mounts, bonehead tackle, any of that, when their website comes back up, there's some discount codes for you guys right down there at the bottom of the screen. You can take advantage of those, save yourself some money. Those are there for you guys to just do that, save money. So take advantage of those discount codes and save yourself some money on some great product if you would. Craig from Collierville, Tennessee. What's going on? Greg Holder. Hello, hello. Um, Bee Springs, Kentucky. What's going on, Jonathan? Yeah, so, there's a lot of different things going on as far as the live scope is concerned. Forward facing sonar. Let's call it forward facing sonar because not all live scope, but forward facing sonar is rocking the boat in fishing. It's been rocking the boat. It's going to continue to rock the boat. You've seen things on the bass side now. You've seen things on the crappie side now, where Mississippi is lowering their limits. And, they're watching fish very closely as far as their populations are concerned. Because a lot of those lakes in Mississippi, guys, the revenue for those towns comes through fishing. A lot of their local businesses and things that people depend on their livelihood for, or because those lakes hold such big fish down in Mississippi, Grenada, and Enid, and Washington, and a lot of those lakes are you know what drives the economy for those towns, and so they're watching very closely to try to make sure that they don't lose that population of fish. They continue to produce big fish, and they're doing what they can to combat the forward facing sonar. Okay, forward facing sonar is changing the game. It really is, and it has for a while. It's going to continue to change that game, and you're going to continue to see advancements. You're going to continue to see the different regulations and the different rules and the different things that come into play because of forward facing sonar. Okay. Um, I feel like it's not the end of what regulations are going to get placed on forward facing sonar by any means for a lot of states all around the country, really. But I think Mississippi was probably the first ones to go because they have so much revenue driven by crappie fishing down there. Most of your big crappie tournaments, your national trails and things of that nature are hitting that area on the regular. I mean, once, twice, sometimes 3 times a year, they're going to those areas, going to those lakes and fishing for those fish. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Uh, Danny Phillips, Cookville here. What's going on, Danny? So, if you guys have a comment on forward facing sonar, and if you guys have a thought, no hard feelings, no wrongs here, nothing, completely biased. I'll be honest with you, I can see both sides of the coin. Okay. I can see that there's a lot of anglers of the older generation that aren't producing the type of fish that they used to produce to compete with some of the younger generation who has perfected this live scope thing or this forward facing sonar deal. And I can see them griping being the reason that they've made some changes. And I don't have any thoughts or feelings on that. I feel like if there's technology available and anglers are better at using it, they're just better at using it, and there's not much you can do about it. You just got to learn how to be better. That's just like a baseball team that gets beat, and I go back to baseball because I coach my son's little league and I love it. But that's like a baseball team getting beat. You just got to figure out how to be better. You can't get mad at the team for beating you. You can't say, man, I can't stand that maroon. Well, you can, because there's a couple teams that I can't stand from last spring, but I can't stand them. They shouldn't allow that. They shouldn't allow a team like that to play in our league. Come on. Those kids are the same age that my kids are. They're just better prepared, better ball players that night. Okay. They're not necessarily better all the time, but that particular game, they were better than us. And if that happens, that's just competition. That's just how it rolls. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, not to get off on a soapbox, but I want to know you guys' thoughts. I want to know, what does everybody think about forward facing sonar? What do you, or how do you feel about the regulations that are changing and the things that are changing because of forward facing sonar? And I want to open some dialogue up. I want to know, what are my viewers, you guys, seeing and feeling about forward facing sonar? Is it something that you hate, you love, can't stand to watch it online? That's the other flip side of that coin is, there has been a drastic drop in viewership for for all of these events, bass tournaments, even crappie tournaments. Okay, the viewership has went. All right. So one thing, and you guys know, I used to be a bass fisherman when I was younger. I was a bass fisherman, and one thing that used to, when you watched, Bass Masters or whatever else on TV, you would see 8 or 10 different guys that they'd cover, and all 8 or 10 of them were doing a different technique. One may be throwing a worm, a Carolina rig, a frog, skipping docks, throwing a chatterbait, throwing a crankbait, throwing a rattle trap, throwing a spinnerbait. They're all doing something different, right? And now when you watch it, it's, well, here's this guy throwing a minnow, watching his screen. And then they flip over to this guy, and here he is throwing a minnow. watching his screen. Then they flip over to this guy, and he's throwing a minnow out in open water watching his screen. And he flip to this guy, and he's throwing a minnow out in open water. And it's like the same thing over and over and over. And I've seen that a lot on YouTube with our crappie industry too, with our crappie fishing. There's a lot of new YouTubers. There's a lot of people that are buying GoPros that have a live scope that go out with forward-facing sonar and say, here's how I catch them. And they're saying, watch me, watch me. And you're out there on YouTube watching people catch these fish with live scope, and you're not getting anywhere. You're not getting anywhere, you know? And don't shoot me down when I'm preaching good. And if you have a YouTube channel and you go out there with your forward-facing sonar and you're filming and you're putting it on YouTube, people are watching it, I'm glad. Don't get me wrong. I don't want the whole YouTube community to call me and be like, you suck. I don't suck. I'm just here to tell you, you know, if you go back and you watch my channel, yes, I have forward-facing sonar. Yes, I fish with live scope. Yes, I do videos with live scope. But you can go back and you can watch, you know, planer boards and crankbaits and long line trolling and shooting docks and casting brush without forward-facing sonar. And, you know, all these different techniques that I utilize and have always utilized to catch crappie. And you guys without forward-facing sonar can watch those videos and learn different techniques and learn different ways to catch crappie. Okay. So, you know, slip floating and minnow fishing and, you know, just all the different ways that you can be effective as a crappie fisherman. Right. So, you know, again, you know, I can see where, and another thing that's happening is with forward-facing sonar is these co-anglers, the co-angler events. The co-angler events, your co-anglers are leaving. They're not participating anymore because, you know, and when you're in a boat with a guy that's got a forward-facing sonar in front of his boat and he's out in open water in the middle of BFE nowhere, and he's casting to one fish, and then he's moving 100 yards and casting to one fish, and he's moving 100 yards and casting to one fish, and you're standing in the back of the boat, you can't see nothing, don't know nothing, and you're out in the middle of the lake doing what? And you're trying to fish and catch a fish. You don't catch nothing all day, so these co-anglers in these events are leaving, and they're going other places or doing other things or you know, and there's a lot of revenue. They see a lot of revenue through co-anglers, okay? And they don't have that anymore because they're leaving. And so, I mean, I can understand where a lot of this is being driven, and I can understand where a lot of it is just, I don't want to use the word hate. It's just a lot of it is contention between a generation that doesn't have forward-facing sonar, didn't have forward-facing sonar, and a generation that grew up with it. So, a generation that grew up with it comes out, starts whooping on some people, and they're frustrated, for lack of better terms, just absolutely frustrated. And you know, you start getting a lot of chatter, and they're hearing it, you know, and they're trying to combat it, and they're trying to keep things on an even keel. So, you know, I get it. It's tough, but it's here to stay. Forward-facing sonar is not going anywhere unless states start banning it, and then, you know, that opens a horse of a different color. You know, I don't know how you could get away with banning someone's product. It just, I don't think that would happen. I mean, you can ban it obviously from tournament trails or whatever you want to do, but I don't think you can actually ban it. I mean, I don't know the rules for that, but you know, hey, maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Who knows? But again, love to hear y'all's thoughts if y'all have any. Let's keep it clean. You know, just because somebody has a thought or a comment doesn't mean that it's going to line up with your thought or your comment. So keep that in mind. Everybody's entitled to their opinion because these forward-facing sonar conversations have gotten out of hand. And I'm tired of seeing them on Facebook. I mean, you get on Facebook and it's like every forum is an argument about forward-facing sonar now. It's just crazy. It's like, you know, you have the guys that love it and you have the guys that hate it, and there's not a whole lot of in between. I guess I might be one of those in betweens. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't, you know, it's just a tool. And, you know, there are some of those guys on there. They're like, hey, man, it's just a tool. You know, use it if you want it. If you don't use it, you know. And it's kind of where I'm at, I guess. Is this just a tool? I'm neutral. So, you know, again, don't shoot me down when I'm preaching good. But Eric, hey, from Coreyton, you said before the Edgemore Melton Hill area is a different beast. I've been trying to figure it out. Water temps have been all over the place. Any experience with that area? Yeah, a lot of experience with that area. So again, it's kind of what you described. It's water temperatures all over the place, because that lake doesn't fluctuate very much. First of all, there's not a lot of fluctuation. That lake, they maintain a pretty consistent depth on that lake for the most part year round, unless they're doing what they call their dock maintenance for their owners of the lake, or on the lake. They will drop the lake for a couple weeks out of the year just to let dock owners do repairs on their docks. But other than that, they pretty much keep it consistent. And all that water comes out of Norris and is colder than crap. When it comes out of Norris, that dam is like, I don't know, 300 feet deep or something, and it's just so cold. Um, just such cold water coming down that river, down the Clinch, that yeah, it's tough. Water temperatures fluctuate daily, hourly sometimes, and it can put a hurting on the fish. You need flow. There's always typically flow in that lake. There's very few times when there's not flow. The current is what I mean by flow. Water going through the lake or through the river, if you will. I mean, it's pretty much a river. Um, but you can catch fish on it. There's good crappie in Melton Hill. If you find that pattern of crappie, you can pretty much catch them consistently. There is uh, current breaks are a great place to look. Um, you know, the creeks are great places to look. There's a lot of creeks on that lake that are just way too shallow. Don't waste your time with shallow creeks. Find yourself the creeks that have a little deeper water in them. Don't be afraid to fish shallow in some of those creeks that have deep water, because those fish will stay shallower. The water temperatures fluctuate so much that the water stays cooler. So those fish will actually stay shallower, because cooler water holds more oxygen, first of all, and it allows those fish to move up shallower. So, from my experience, you typically find fish shallower in Melton Hill year round than you would any other lake here in East Tennessee. It's kind of the exception to that rule. And, it can be, again, kind of what I preach on this channel is you have to fish the conditions that you're dealt on your lake. So, if you don't live in East Tennessee, try to fish those conditions that you're dealt. And if I'm talking about summer fishing and our water temperatures are 85 and you go to Melton Hill and it's 63, you got to go back to, okay, well, when did Matt talk about 63-degree water? Well, we talked about 63-degree water in late fall, early winter. So what kind of pattern are we looking for with that? That's kind of where you need to go with, fishing your conditions, fishing the conditions that you're dealt on a specific day. Okay. But there is crappie in that lake. That Edgemore, Melton Hill, or that Edgemore area, that's up there around Bull Run Creek. Bull Run Creek is a good creek. There's a lot of crappie in Bull Run. If you can find structure in Bull Run, you can catch fish. Okay. Virgil, what's up? Forward facing sonar is no different than when we went from a flasher to an LCR depth finder. There are and always will be better technologies coming. Yeah, I mean there is. I mean that's very true, Ronald, and I agree with that 100%. There's always been advancements in technology, and there's always been these. Believe it or not, when side imaging first came out and down imaging first came out, there was thoughts about banning them. There was thoughts about putting limitations on them, but I don't think people I don't think people quite went to the extreme of forward or of down imaging and side imaging and the flashers and things of that nature. I don't think they quite went to the extreme that maybe we're going to today with 5 or 6 forward facing sonar transducers on your boat. In crappie fishing now, there's I'm running two live scope screens in my boat. I mean, I have two 12-inch screens and I have two um, LVS 34 transducers, and I have a pole on either side of the boat, and me and my partner sit up there and we wear them out. And guide trips, we wear them out. I mean, it's different, right? And some of these guys, some of these bass guys, and some of these crappie guys, they're going to these extremes, and they're going to these extremes because they're looking for that edge. They're looking for that that little bit of edge to get up on the competition. And And they're doing it. I mean, these guys are killing it. I mean, some of these guys that have these 4 or 5 different screens and 4 or 5 transducers and this different stuff, I mean, they're killing it. They're going out there and they're wearing them out. So, hey, more power to them. But yeah, again, I don't think we quite had that extreme when we. Golly, I can't seem to get comfortable here. Ugh. All right, let's try again. So, yeah, I don't think we quite had people going to as much extreme with those different technologies as we do with forward-facing sonar. So people are finding new and more creative ways to use it, right? They can take my active target from me when they pry it out of my cold, dead fingers. There you go, Rick. It sure does help for the weekend angler for sure, or for anglers that don't live on the lake for a living. It sure does help make it more enjoyable, funner. You go out there and you can actually catch fish on any given day, just about. And it makes fishing fun. It really does. It makes fishing fun and more productive. And you know I don't keep a whole lot of fish anymore. I used to keep 20, 30, sometimes 50 fillets in the freezer. I don't do that anymore. I keep maybe, 8 fillets feeds us with a meal. So as far as me and my kids, my wife doesn't eat fish. So um, me and the kids can eat on 8 fillets, and I keep about 16 or maybe 24 in the freezer, just 2 or 3 meals worth, and that's about it. But yeah, it's out of his cold dead fingers, Rick said. I'm wanting to get live scope, have money for one unit and live scope right now, and was thinking about getting the EcoMap 106 SV. That's on sale at Bass Pro for $9.99 to help save some money for now. Um, so Hunter, you know, from what I've seen at Wired Marine Electronics doing installs, the guys that started with a 10 always go to a 12. If you get on Facebook and you look at units that are being sold, 90% of the units you see being sold are 10s. And 99% of the time, if you ask them why they're selling it, it's because they said, well, I got a 12. So, you know, I'm not telling you not to save the money and get the 10, but think about, if you had the 10, would you want a 12? Because I think your answer may be, well, I'd like to have the 12. And if that's the case, when you go out with that 10, you're always going to think, well, I'd like to have that 12. You know what I mean? So if you just absolutely say, look, I'm not capable of doing the 12. I can't do it right now. Not going to happen. Then go with the 10. But if it take you 2 more weeks to get enough for the 12, then you might want to consider it. Because I have a lot of return business switching 10s to 12s. Is that a good idea? Well, there's your answer. All right, forward facing sonar seems like if you practice it enough, it would be a fun challenge to win a tournament without it. Let's see. Forward facing sonar seems like if you practice it enough, it would be a fun challenge to win a tournament without it. Yeah, I mean, it is fun to win without it. I've won several tournaments without my forward facing sonar. I won Teleco last year, never turned on a graph. Not only did we never turn on forward facing sonar, we never turned on our side imaging, down imaging, nothing. I didn't even turn my maps on. Okay. Um, Put the boat in, ran down the lake, pulled planer boards. You guys, did I film that tournament? I think we filmed that tournament. Did I not film that tournament? I'm pretty sure we filmed that tournament. It's probably on my channel. I'm almost positive we filmed it and I put it on the channel. But yeah, I pulled planer boards and won the tournament. So fishing without it and winning without it is a blast. Absolutely. 100%. For sure. My thoughts are, I love forward facing sonar. I can't wait for the next upgrade. And I am a old guy. You're only as old as you feel, Jimmy. You know what I'm saying? Only as old as you feel. I've crappie fished and bass fished old school for 60 years. I've got live scope now and I love it. yeah, I mean, it's a great tool. I'm sure I'd love it if I had it and wouldn't let it go. I bet there would be less hate if it was more affordable. Ha. Well, I don't know that that's driving a whole lot of it. It may be driving some of it for some people, but I don't know that that's driving a whole lot of it. Um, as a society as a whole, we are a jealous society. I mean, most people, would agree with that. I think, um, but I don't think that's driving a lot of it. It's probably driving some, but there's other things driving it too. I use forward-facing sonar when I'm trolling. I don't use it when I'm trolling. Hello, Matt from Tulsa, Oklahoma. What's going on? Good evening, Matt. Good evening, Russell. Hope you're doing well. I use forward-facing sonar a lot when I'm trolling. I can turn the transducer to where I can see the depth my jigs are. Just a running. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've actually considered doing that some, Derek, but never have. Typically, I've just done it long enough now that I know. Uh, I kind of know where my jigs run. But co-anglers should get a portable system. Use the back of the boat. They can learn a lot from the guys in the front. A lot of them enter as co-anglers to become better fishermen or to learn. That's a very good point. Absolutely, 100%. The only thing I can see that being frustrating with is if you don't have the trolling motor. You know how frustrating it is if you see a fish and he's 85 feet from you and you're like, that's a big fish, and you're like, hey, can you turn to the left or right and back up so that I can throw back here at 85 feet? That ain't gonna happen. And we're like, oh, there's a big one at 85 feet. Thank you. um, yeah, so I can see that even with a portable unit in the back of the boat, I can see the way that they fish now, the way that that fishing is taking place anymore. I can see it being frustrating too, even if they had a portable unit. So, um, you know, but that's a good point. I mean, they could get a uh, unit for the back of the boat for sure. Charles, maybe a slot limit and protect the spawning stock 12 to 16 inches and allow only one or two over 16 for the ones looking for that trophy. I allow anglers to keep 10 to 12 for eaters. Just thinking. That's a good point. That's a good thought. I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea. Eliminates dead water quickly. Love it. Yep. They didn't like the fish finders back in the 80s, said it was too much technology, came a long way. I just started using last month. I like it, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it is. I've crappie fished for over 30 years, Joel says. I've learned more about crappie in the last 5 with forward-facing sonar than I did in 25. I would agree with that, too. It's a very, very good learning tool. I had a 10 and went to a 12. Way better. Yep, there's a testimony. Joel, don't forget me for when Center Hill gets right. There you go. Matt, do you prefer the 32 or 34 transducer and why? I prefer the 34. 34 is better. It's got better definition. It's got better target separation, um, you know, for any kind of structure fishing. But if you're open water fishing, I prefer the 32 because it's a little more precise. The 32 has, in my opinion, is not as hot as the 34. And what I mean by hot is it's not as bright and everything doesn't stand out as much. So you really have to be right on that fish for that fish to show up bright. Whereas you could be a little off with your 34 and that fish still be bright and you're casting to him, he's not biting, and you're like, why is that fish not biting? And you throw 3 feet to the left and all of a sudden he bites because that 34 is just a little hotter than the 32. That's just something you have to work through as far as open water fishing is concerned. But for brush, for structure, for target separation, for any of that, 34 over 32, 100%. The truth for me is that I actually enjoy playing with technology uh, more, I guess, more than I do catching the fish. Yeah, I mean, technology's fun. I mean, who doesn't like playing with new toys? I mean, I like new toys. I got you down, Danny. Got your number in my phone. All right, so um, let's go back up here and let's find. Where's our comment about turnover? Yeah, Mr. Runner. All right. Good evening, Matt. I hope you and your family are doing well, my friend. Can you spend a little time or a little bit of time to explain crappie during the fall turnover? I struggle during this time of year. So let's talk a little bit about fall turnover. Okay. So what is fall turnover? I mean, who came up with this idea of the fall turnover, right? So fall turnover is basically a turning over of the water, of the layers of water. Okay. So every lake has different layers of water. Okay. Those layers consist of different consistencies of water and different temperatures of water and different oxygen levels of water. Okay. So in the summer, what happens is there's a bottom layer of water in the lake that is stagnant, dead, nasty, yuck water that doesn't have any oxygen in it. Okay. And I can give you all the technical terms for it and all the technical words for it, but it ain't gonna make no sense to you guys because I'm just gonna hit you with a bunch of big words and I don't understand big words. So I'm gonna dumb it down for me and hopefully you guys will be on the same level. You know what I'm saying? All right. So there's a whole layer of water on the bottom of the lake that's blech. Okay. No oxygen or low oxygen content. That's just dead, nasty water. Okay. And at every lake, and sometimes in different areas of the lake, of one specific lake, could set up at different depths. Okay. It just is really depicted by, or laid out, if you will, by water flows, water depths, okay, water clarities, and so on and so forth. All right. Decides on kind of where that thermocline, if you will, sets up. Okay. So the thermocline is the separation between oxygenated water and non-oxygenated water in the lake. Okay. So the fall turnover, what happens is when it's hot, 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 you get that thermocline set up in the summer, you get those layers of water, that bottom layer that's dead, all of a sudden, here go the temperatures, they start dropping. Okay. Cold water is heavy, right? Heavier than the warm water underneath it. So what happens is the top layer of the lake, as the air temperatures begin to cool for fall, that top layer of water in the lake, which is sitting right here, okay, cools off. But this water down here is still warm from all the sun in the summer months. So what happens is this cool layer starts to sink. And this cool layer sinks underneath that warm layer, and that warm layer moves to the top. Okay. And then that cold layer sinks down here to the bottom. What does that do? Well, it takes that nasty, dead, oxygenated water that is under the thermocline, and as the water cools and it moves it down, boom, it moves that nasty water up. Okay. And as that continues to happen, and as you continue to see those layers of water that drop through the water column, all of a sudden, that nasty water that's been sitting down there stagnant and dead and blech, all right, starts to move towards the top of the lake. So, have you guys ever seen like a bog or a swamp or something that just has nasty, dead, stagnant water in it that just smells horrible? And you walk by it, and you're like, God, whew, that's nasty. Ugh. It's because it's stagnant, dead, nasty water, right? Um, and what you start to see as that turnover takes place, okay, as those layers of water cool, as those layers of water cool and they drop through the water column and that nasty water moves up, what happens is you start seeing a different color of water in your lake. And let's take it as far as down here in our area, you'll see what is described as a coffee colored water. And that coffee colored water is that nasty, dead, stagnant, non oxygenated crud that's at the bottom of the lake. Okay. So you get this mixing of water and you get this nasty water that moves up. And what happens is in the summer months, those fish stay above that thermocline in good oxygenated water. Okay. So in that oxygenated water, in that cool water, that the top layer of water is the warmest. So it holds less oxygen. And then that kind of bread and butter layer, if you will. Let's take Tellico, for instance. There's a lot of areas on Tellico where that thermocline is set up at 14 feet or 15 feet, 16 feet. 14 to 16. Some 12 to 16. Let's call it 12, 16. So 12 to 16 feet kind of is where Tellico lives. And you'll find fish sitting in 8 to 10. That's because that layer of water between 8 and 10 is the coolest and has the most oxygen. Okay. Well, what happens is as that begins to cool, okay, and as that top layer drops and that middle layer moves up, those fish come shallower because they follow that cooler water with more oxygen. Okay. The bait fish, the fish, everything will kind of move up at the beginning of turnover. And then as turnover continues to happen and those layers continue to cool and fall, and that middle layer that those fish were in the summer begins to fall, then all of a sudden you see these fish go, because now that nasty water's up top, and that water that they've been living in all summer with that cool, high oxygen content water is now the bottom of the lake. And they start going, following that water down. So they're not just going to follow the bait that time of year. During turnover, they're not just going to follow bait. They're also going to follow the water. Okay. So you got to keep it in mind that the fish are going to follow the water. So again, as we hit early fall, you're going to see that middle layer of water that those fish have been living in all summer. It's going to start moving up. Okay. But then once that layer begins to cool and drop, they're going to go down. Okay. So keep that in mind, Ronald. Again, know where you're at in your fall transition, your fall turnover. Okay. If it's just started to cool off like this week, we're in the mid 80s. Nights are dropping down into the 60s, I believe. I hadn't looked at the lows, but I assume they're probably dropping down to the 60s, and the water is going to cool off some. Okay. This first week, it's going to change the water temperature a little bit, but it's not going to change it a whole lot. Now, next week, we're supposed to have temperatures in the 70s, and I assume we'll probably get some nights in the upper 50s, maybe mid 50s, and that is going to start our transition. Okay. And it's normally about a 2-week period. It normally takes a good 2 weeks from the time it begins to cool. From the time you see that nastier water, what I would describe as that coffee colored water, to the time that it actually filters through and gets back to some type of normalcy as far as the water conditions are concerned, that's about a 2-week period, maybe 3 at the most. But here in East Tennessee, it's about a 2 or 3 week period. You're going to see it. Normally for us, it's the first 3 weeks of October. First 3 weeks of October is when you kind of see that turnover, or the second to the fourth week. It's right there in October somewhere. Generally happens in October for us. And it's going to be different for you guys all over the country. You guys up north may be seeing it now. The guys down south, you may not see it till November, maybe December in some of the areas of the extreme south. But it's going to happen. It's going to turn over. Lakes are going to turn. Unless you're on a lake like Reelfoot, where the deepest water in Reelfoot's 13 foot. It's the deepest point. You're not going to see a whole lot of turnover there because there's not a whole lot of layering in that water. I mean, when your average depth is 6 feet, there's not a whole lot of layers that you can get in the 6 feet. So that turnover is not going to take long for the most part. But in our reservoirs like we have here, where we've got depths that vary pretty substantially, we have some areas of our lakes that are 100 plus feet, and then we've got some that are deepest is 50 to 60 feet, but we got some water, so again, this is kind of a reservoir situation where, with that turnover and that lake turnover and any lake that turns over, that's kind of the progression that you're going to see with those fish. And, it should be, as long as you can figure out where you're at in that process, you should be able to locate fish. If you're early in that process, look a little shallower than you were in the summer. So if you're catching them in 8 to 10 foot, 8 to 10 foot deep in the summer. Now, again, keep in mind, I'm not telling you to fish in 8 to 10 foot of water. I'm telling you, you might be in 25 foot of water, but your structure may come up to 10 foot from the surface and there's fish sitting on top of it. Okay. So I'm not necessarily telling you to go to 8 feet of water and fish, but if you're catching those fish 8 to 10 foot deep, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore, and you say, well, they were there last week, where'd they go? maybe look a little shallower. Maybe go to 15 to 18 foot of water and look for some brush that comes up to 6 or 8 feet. They may be on top of it, okay? Because they may have moved up with that water. But then if it's, you say, hey, well, I fished a month ago and they were in 8 to 12 and now they're gone and I can't find them, then, hey, maybe you need to look deeper because you are probably in the later parts of that turnover and those fish may have went down to the bottom with that better water, okay? Does that make sense? Uh, let's see. Get back on my comments here. Matt, would you mind showing your portable live scope you use when fishing on someone else's boat? Thanks. I don't have a portable live scope. I have 2 live scopes in the front of my boat that are wired in. I don't have a portable live scope anymore. We were talking about portable live scopes earlier with I used to have one. I used to have a live scope that was portable, but I no longer have one. Everything's wired into my boat. Big Kid, what's up? So again, that's fall transition for me. I hope that helps. Like I said, don't be afraid to look in different depths, and I'll tell you right now, Jimmy Pratt's gonna be happy when they go deep. I know that for a fact. He's called me all summer. He's like, I hate fishing shallow. I want to fish deep. They're not deep. And I'm like, nope, they're not. You're gonna have to look somewhere else. I know. I've told him that about 1,000 times. He keeps saying, I know, I know. And then he calls me again. He's like, I'm looking deep and ain't no fish. And I'm like, I know, and you just won't go fish shallow. He hates fishing shallow. He hates it. He was ready for those fish to go back deep, and they will. They will. And I think that's a lot of the reason that fish are deep in the winter. I think that has a lot to do with it. I think because when that turnover happens, those fish follow that water down, and then everything kind of gets back to some type of normalcy. But you still got high oxygen content all over the lake because the water temperatures have cooled, and cooler water holds more oxygen. So I think that's a lot of the reason that they stay deep in the winter is because you know they went there late fall with the turnover, and now that's where they've been comfortable. So they just continue being comfortable right down there in deeper water. I think that has a lot to do with it. And they're not fit. The crappie fish aren't as affected by cold fronts and temperature swings and different things the deeper that they are. So the fish that are deeper aren't as affected by Mother Nature as much. Okay, so that's another reason that they go deep in the winters because they don't get bothered by the fronts and the barometric pressures and things of that matter as much. Jimmy, I found them deep today. Praise the Lord. What's the best 12-inch Garmin to start with for live scope for someone who wants to get another one at the console next summer? I would go with EcoMap series. You cannot mix GPS map and EcoMap together. They will not link together as far as networking capabilities. Me personally, I've had both the GPS map series and the EcoMap series. The EcoMap series are more affordable. They're more user friendly. And for the dollar, they are, I take that back. The Eco Map, when you find them on sale, are a little more affordable. The GPS map, just like the straight GPS map, 1243s and 1222s and things of that nature, are a little cheaper, I think. But they also aren't as user friendly as that touchscreen, in my opinion. I liked my GPS map 1222 that I had, but since I got the 126 SVs, they are um, a little bit easier to manipulate as far as when your live scope's on the screen, going up and down in depth and forward and backwards in forward range. It's all right there kind of on the screen where you can just kind of touch the screen and go, where you're not having to push the knob and turn the knob and push the knob and turn the knob and push the knob and turn the knob to get it to go back and forth, toggling between the two. So for me, probably the Eco Map
126s or the EcoMap series. I would go with that in the 12-inch. Thanks. It gets confusing. You're welcome. I appreciate it. Yeah, it can get confusing. You know, with Garmin having different series and those series not linking together is kind of like, why would you do that? But again, I guess I kind of understand why they do, because, if somebody buys into one series, they can continue buying into that series, and they can continue producing products that better that series. And they're feeding two different crowds, right? They're feeding this crowd that has this series and that crowd that has that series, and they can release a new product here and get these people to buy a new product, and then release a product here and get it. I guess I kind of understand why they do it, but yeah, it's unfortunate that you can't link them together, for sure. But I will say this, because I have had boats in here that have both on them a GPS map and an EcoMap series, because they bought them and brought them to me, and they're like, "Here, put this in my boat now and link it all together." And I'm like, "It doesn't work that way." You can run a network cable from an EcoMap to a GPS map, and your waypoints will transfer. Now you'll get a message on the screen that says, unit not compatible, blah 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 blah. But while that's happening on the screen in the background, your waypoints will transfer. Okay. Now you can't share screens and you can't leave it connected, because you have to unplug the network cable and tell the screen, "Okay, thank you. I understand they're not compatible with one another." Blang, dink, and it goes back to running. But you can plug them together and swap waypoints across them. I do know that because we've done it. So waypoints will transfer, but you can't link them together and leave them linked together. You just can plug them in. Like, let's say you went to the lake and marked 100 new waypoints. You could take a network cable when you got back to your house, plug it into your GPS map, into your Eco map, and the waypoints. So you can do that, but who wants to have to do that every time they come back from the lake, right? So stay in your series, stay in your lane, and you'll be fine. All right, guys, we've been on almost an hour, but we're to the bottom of our comments. So if you watch this after the fact, okay, if you watch this after the live and you have any comments or would like to comment on anything we talked about, please drop a comment in the comment section, because, hey, or if you think of something after you leave and you want to come back and drop a comment in the comment section, I get those comment notifications and I will try to answer back to you. I don't catch every single comment, but I catch most, and I will typically answer you back if you have a question. And or if you just say, "Hey, like the live," then I'll probably give you a thumbs up or a heart or something of that nature and let you know that I saw it. But I try to answer the comments and questions that come in as I see them. So if you're catching this after the live, drop it in the comment section. If you have any comments, concerns, questions, okay? And I will try to get those answered for you. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Is the UHD2 worth the extra money over the ish that's on sale? Thanks. As far as live scope's concerned, the UHD2 or the straight UHD, I don't see a difference, personally. Okay, I've installed a lot of them, and I don't personally see a difference. I don't see much of a difference, to be honest with you, across their entire. As far as size is concerned, I mean, as far as clarity is concerned, as far as size, now there's a difference. The bigger screen is bigger fish, bigger brush pile, bigger this, bigger that. You know, um, but as far as the models are concerned, like the UHD and then the UHD2, I don't see a whole lot of difference in clarity as far as that's concerned. So if the UHD is on sale and it's cheaper, go with the UHD. That's my opinion. Thank you for all the info. You're very welcome, Eric. I appreciate the comment, buddy. Thank you for the thanks. I appreciate it. All right. As I said or was saying, I hope you all have a great week. I hope each and every person is blessed this week, and I hope you guys come back next Wednesday at 9:00 to talk about some more crappie stuff. We've got before we leave, and we're going to talk about them next week too, because I wanted to do it earlier and didn't get to it because we had so much good stuff to talk about. I want to talk to you guys about a new sponsor that we have for the channel. So let me grab my little package here and we're going to talk about it. So we have a new sponsor for the channel for the rest of this year and next year and hopefully years and years to come. Okay. Oh, so everybody has seen the advancements in technology, the advancements in um, boats and motors and fishing rods and reels and all this different stuff, tackle, right? So we have a new sponsor for the channel. Let me do some digging here. I have one that's open somewhere. I'm trying to find it. Bear with me. Well, we'll open a new one. All right. Right here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Let me pull it out of there. Let me pull her out of there. This is, there we go, Rougarou tackle. Tungsten jig heads. Okay? Tungsten jig heads. Not lead, tungsten. Okay? So, some of you guys may say, what's tungsten? Well, tungsten is a lead alternative, if you will. But what are the benefits of tungsten? Okay, so Rougarou Tackle is your leader in tungsten jig heads. They make a jig head. Now, the Bass guys have all kinds of tungsten jig head producers or providers, if you will. But as far as crappie fishing is concerned, there's not a whole lot of people out there doing a tungsten crappie jig. Rougarou is kind of leading the way in that. And what this is this is actually a 1/4 ounce tungsten jig head. Okay, so that is a 1/4 ounce tungsten jig head, and you guys can see I don't have a 1/4 ounce. Yeah, I do. Let's grab a 1/4 ounce. Let's grab a 1/4 ounce lead head. So, couple benefits to tungsten. One, it's a lot smaller than a 1/4 ounce lead head. So a 1/4 ounce lead head is almost 1.5 times the size of a tungsten jig head. Well, it's 50% bigger. Let me say that. A lead head is 50% bigger than a tungsten head of the same weight. So you get a smaller profile, which is good when you're throwing a little small crappie jig. You've got this little tiny crappie jig, and then you've got this big old lead head that's on it, right? So, all right, here we go. So you got these big giant lead heads that make your jig look like something from the Sixth Sense that, you're looking at going, what in the world is that? And I'm sure the fish are like, that thing's got a big old head. So that's one advantage to tungsten is it's just a smaller profile because it's a denser alloy. So with a denser alloy, it allows you to have a smaller profile. And with a denser alloy and a smaller profile, it allows that bait to sink a little faster. So you get a bait that sinks a little quicker, okay? And that's a big deal because there's the difference in a 1/4 ounce lead head and a 1/4 ounce. Let's see if I can line them up. There you go. 1/4 ounce lead and 1/4 ounce tungsten. Okay, so you can see that the lead is a lot bigger. All right, less drag when this is falling in the lake because it's smaller, sinks faster with live scope, especially open water fish. When you're casting those open water fish, you need that bait to get down there right now before that fish swims away from you or you spook it. Okay, so it sinks a little bit quicker, same weight but less drag. And then they just have a really great point. The hooks have a really great point on them too. Okay, so really really great point. Now some of the benefits are just that, and it's like I said, it's a denser alloy. It's as far as your return on your live scope with a denser alloy, a little bit better return on your live scope. Okay, because it is denser and it reflects that sonar a little bit better. and doesn't absorb as much as maybe a lead head will. So, you know, kind of, and, you know, more friendly to the environment. If you break them off in the bottom of the lake, they're not lead, they're tungsten. Okay. Now, some of the disadvantages of a tungsten jig head is they're a little more expensive. Okay. So, a little more expensive, but in today's world with live scope, we can see the brush. We're not getting hung as much. We're casting open water fish. You're not getting hung at all when you're casting open water fish. So it's a necessary tool, especially for a tournament angler, to have something that sinks a little faster, has a little bit better return, and is a little bit cleaner product, if for the environment's sake, right? So it's a win-win-win. But looking forward to getting them on the lake. They have them in obviously painted and unpainted. So where's my unpainted? So you got unpainted and you got painted. They got different colors, chartreuse. I think they got pink, white, a couple different colors. But looking forward to getting those out on the lake, putting them through the test. And they have great eyes on them. That's one thing that I am really, 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 really strict about as far as my jig heads are concerned. I can't stand a jig head that has an eye that is left open. Okay. And these are very, very, very well put together. Okay. They've got a wire keeper on them, which I don't typically like a wire keeper because it typically tears your jig. But I think that's not a big deal because I can take a pair of snips or a pair of pliers and just pinch those down. Not going to hurt a thing. So that doesn't too much bother me. And I do prefer a jig head without a keeper at all. So I can take those wire keepers and push them down. They have 16ths, 8ths, and quarters. So they offer a 16th, an 8th, and a quarter. And they offer different hook sizes as well. They have a number 2, a number 4, just several different hook sizes that you can get those in. That is the number 2. Okay, so that's quarter ounce head, number 2 hook. I like a number 2 hook. That baits that I use, a number 2 hook fits better with pretty much everything that I throw, as far as bonehead stump bugs and slim sticks and the mini slims. And a number 2 is where I typically end up. So again, you know, new sponsor for the channel. I'm looking forward to working with them. Looking forward to, you know, being partnered with them. And looking forward to getting the tungsten out and seeing what it does. So, and I may actually do some stuff on live scope here in a little bit and show you guys, you know, take a quarter ounce head and a tungsten head, not put a jig on them, not put them on a rod, and just take 2 jigs, toss them out from the live scope, and watch which one falls faster. You know what I'm saying? So we may do some different stuff with them, play with them a little bit, and see kind of how they react. And again, great bait or a great head. I'm looking forward to getting a bait on them and appreciate the partnership with them for sure, 100%. So new things coming, right? Everybody likes new shiny stuff, new toys, new electronics, new this and new that. So wanted to talk about that tonight. We'll go into a little bit more in depth about it next week on the live because I wanted to do it earlier, but almost kind of forgot because I left my package upstairs. So we'll talk about it again first on the live next week and bring people up to speed on that. But you'll start seeing their logo. We got logos coming for the boat. We got logos coming for the channel and for the for the page and all that good stuff. So you'll see their logo on some stuff coming up, and you know, look forward to it. So thank you to them. Thank you to Rougarou for partnering with us and trying to get you guys a discount code for them too. So see if we can't get you guys a discount code for them. And when I do, we'll add it down here to the discount reel. Okay. All right. So we're going to call it a night. I appreciate you guys. As always, God bless. Have a good week, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.